Hey everybody, welcome back to Greg's Grooves. And today I wanted to have a quick discussion about CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I just pulled out a couple things from my collection. I was going through my collection the other day and I decided to put on Chronicle, CCR's 20 Greatest Hits. And I thought to myself, is CCR a band where I need to own their entire discography or parts of it? You know, I went through and I pulled out my copy of Cosmo's Factory and Green River, and I looked at the track listings, and I looked at the track listings in Chronicle, and I said to myself, wow, like, these two albums in particular compromise like a large chunk of their greatest hits album. And I thought to myself, you know, I know that CCR was clearly one of the best-selling groups. John Fogerty is a prolific songwriter. You know, their catalog reads like a greatest hits of the 70s. You can't watch a movie about the 1970s without having CCR playing in the background in some way, shape, or form. But I found myself saying that I would never consider them in a discussion of the greatest bands of all time. And I asked myself, is this a case of musicianship? Well, no, I don't think musicianship is a prerequisite to being a great band. We all know that The Who is my favorite band, and Keith Moon, while unique, was not a technically great drummer. And I really don't enjoy music that's just technical for technicality's sake, like your, I don't know, Joe Satriani or Malmsteen. Like, I'm not into that. I'm not even into like prog and different metal genres. Like, I can respect the technicality, but it doesn't do anything for me. I'd rather have, you know, 3 chords any day of the week. So why is it that CCR doesn't have my full respect? And I can't answer that question. Maybe it's because it doesn't feel like the whole was bigger than the sum of its parts. It feels like CCR was kind of John Fogerty. His songwriting, his lead vocals. This is going to be rude of me in a sense, but it feels like you could almost replace the other elements and you'd still get the same result. Whereas if you take an element out of the Beatles, let's take George out of the Beatles, because George or Ringo might be considered the unnecessary parts of the Beatles, if you will, for the sake of this argument. The Beatles without George's lead lines, it's a different sounding band. The Beatles without Ringo's kind of sloppy, I don't want to say sloppy, I'm using sloppy a lot. I use sloppy to describe Keith Moon. But without his kind of ragged edge sort of drumming, it sounds like a very different band, which is why they replaced Pete Best. And you take Zeppelin, right? You take any of the elements. You take out Robert Plant's vocals, you take out John Bonham's drumming, they're not Zeppelin anymore. You take The Who, you take Entwistle out, they're not The Who anymore. I don't think the same could be said for Creedence Clearwater Revival. I think you can take out everybody but John Fogerty and it would still be the same group. And when I had this realization, I figured I'd make this video really quick. I don't have a script for this. And I just want to ask, is that maybe why CCR in general, while incredibly popular, while having undoubtedly one of the richest, most successful songbooks in rock and roll history, is not respected in the way that other groups are respected, especially in retrospect. And this is ignoring all the issues with John Fogerty and legality and CCR touring and Creedence Clearwater Revisited and all that stuff. I was lucky enough to see John Fogerty live at the Capitol Theater in Portchester. I don't know how many years ago this was now, but sometime in the last decade or so. And his son played with him, and he was spectacular. He sounded great. He sounded like John Fogerty of all the decades past. There was something kind of timeless about his singing, his presence on stage. And yeah, I thought to myself, you know, I may not be seeing CCR, but seeing John Fogerty is seeing CCR, is it not? If you're a big CCR fan and you disagree with me, I would love to kind of get into it in the comments. Is Creedence Clearwater Revival greater than the sum of all its parts? As kind of a, I don't want to say fair weather fan, but I'm not super deep into CCR. I probably turn to Chronicle, the greatest hits, more than I turn to any one album like Cosmo's Factory. So as kind of a just loose fan of their work, what am I missing? What is it that I don't understand that maybe a real CCR buff does? So please, shoot me a comment and let's chat about it. And until next time, catch you later.